Well, it depends on which countries we're talking about. It's a very different situation. I believe that in the wake of the Iran-Iraq war and Syrian support for Iran in that war, there is a possibility. It's a slim possibility, but it's one thing that I'd like to see, and our organization would like to see American foreign policy exploring, which would be the possibility of moving forward in ending Israel's state of war with Iraq. And Syria is a very different problem. It's never been fully clear to me whether Syria's objectives are to regain the Golan Heights, or good as its minimal objectives, or rather whether or not Syria has got an internal need to maintain itself in a state of war with Israel. I don't have a magic formula for bringing Syria to the negotiating table, though I think that the possibility of Syria being completely isolated in the Arab world, which would be something that would tend to happen if Israel is able to make peace with the Palestinians, would be something that would motivate Syria in that direction. Whether or not that can be worked out, I don't know. But from an Israeli national security point of view, Syria, which is isolated, is a very different commodity in terms of a threat than a Syria that is realigned with an Arab world that is once again committed to destroying Israel. So the question of whether or not Syria and Egypt ever come back together is critical.
Rabbi Kahane.
I think it's an incredible thing to listen to someone talking about what Arab states will be doing. If ever there was an area, a region in the world in which it is impossible to know what will be tomorrow, it's the Middle East. I would not, if I were an insurance agent, I would not write a policy for the president of Egypt. It's incredible to hear Dr. Segal speaking about the Camp David Accord with Egypt and peace on the very day of the attack inside Egypt on a bus in which 10 Jews were murdered. There have been 10 years of peace? No. There have been 10 years of no war. Let me tell you that between 1956 and 1967, there were 11 years of no war with an Egypt led by Nasser. Egypt will go to war when it is convinced that it can win. Egypt will not go to war, as Syria doesn't go to war, not because it likes Israel, but because it knows it cannot win. If you want to speak about peace, don't tell me there's a slim chance, a slim possibility. I am not going to risk my life, and I live there, and that of my children and grandchildren, on your slim hopes. If the Palestinians want a state, let them set it up inside Jordan, and that will be peace. Now you know that the chance of that happening are as slim or not as slim as the chances of their accepting anything short of, for the time being, the entire West Bank and East Jerusalem and Gaza. And if you believe that there is one person in the government of Israel, whether Labor or Likud, who would ever accept that, then you don't know Labor or Likud. You're talking about things that are pipe dreams, castles in Spain, things that are so lacking in anything that is relevant, meaningful, and above all, get one thing clear: every Arab state, every Muslim state is convinced that Israel is a bandit state. It has no right to be there. In Islam, any land which was once under Islam is Islam, and it must be taken back again. Why this contempt for Arabs and for Islam? I understand them, and because of that, and with terrible, terrible pain, I say that there will not be peace there. And I want peace a great deal more than you want peace. I live there.
Fresno, California. Go ahead.
How you doing? I just want to say, first of all, after watching on a satellite some BBC reporting on the occupied territories about how about 5 months ago I saw Orthodox Jewish settlers with automatic weapons stopping cars and beating up fellow Israelis that went to give food and aid. Number one. I saw how they treat it on the BBC reports. I mean, it's totally different than the American, how we look at it. Now, I just want to ask this guy right here. You know, technology is advancing so quickly. And if you don't make a deal, I tell you, in another 15 years, it's not going to be that much time that the atomic bomb could be made in a backyard. And these people, if you don't make a deal, they'll do it. And that's all I want to say. And you guys have a good day.
All right, thank you. I think that last comment was addressed to you, Rabbi Kahane.
Yeah, probably so. I guess I was that guy. I think that this man's logic is overwhelming. If it's true, and unfortunately it is true, that in 15 years and perhaps in 5 years they'll have nuclear weapons, what in the world? Why should they want to make a deal now? And what would their word be worth in 15 years when they have those weapons? We know exactly what the problem is. The problem is exactly that which Dr. Segal says it is not. It is a question of trust. We don't trust them. We don't believe them. They are people who, there is not one Arab in the PLO who can sit down at a table, write a treaty, sign it, guarantee it. It is rooted with factions. There is the Arafat faction, the Huwatna faction, the George Habash faction, and God knows how many other factions, not to mention Hamas, of Islam. So there is a problem of nuclear weapons, there's a problem of chemical weapons, there's a problem of Iraq, whom for some incredible reason Dr. Segal sees a slim chance of sitting down with. Of all the Arab states, Iraq is the one state which didn't even sign an armistice accord with Israel, let alone a peace treaty. It has missiles. It has gained tremendously from its war with Iran. It is probably the most dangerous of the Arab states. Why should they make peace with us if in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, they'll have the nuclear weapons and the missiles? I don't trust them. I don't believe them. And the tragedy is that Dr. Segal does not realize that the Middle East is not the Middle West.
Rabbi, let's give Dr. Segal a chance to respond because we do have a caller from France on hold.
There are about 4 points lurking around here. First of all, on the issue that the caller raised about nuclear weapons or nuclear chemical exchanges, I think what is relevant about it is that it tells us something, as the Iran-Iraq war did, about what future wars in the Middle East could look like. My own belief is that if there is a future war between Israel and the Arab states, it's not going to be a 6-day miracle. It will be something that will resemble the Iran-Iraq war, and it's something sooner or later in which the countries may be driven to use of either nuclear or nuclear chemical exchanges. So the stakes are very high. They're very high for both sides. One reason why countries make peace is because of their own self-interest, and I think that that what we may find ourselves in the Middle East in the not too distant future is a deterrence regime, something that we have between the United States and the Soviet Union. What we're discovering today in U.S.-Soviet relations is the fact that that even with nuclear weapons, you can move towards much greater likelihood of peace by getting at some of the fundamentals of the antagonism. Now, one of the things that was mentioned is Islam and a treating of Islam as if it's much of a muchness, and Arabs as if they're much of a muchness, and if somehow it's an inherent characteristic in it, irreconcilable hostility to Israel, and so on. Actually, there's a great deal of diversity.